Good morning, Frank. Good morning, Michael,
Good
David.
morning, Foz.
Morning, everyone.
Hey, Foz.
Good morning,
Morning.
Fazia. Good
Good
morning,
morning,
everyone.
everyone.
Good morning.
Buenos dias.
So,
Buongiorno.
Or no.
before we get into the heart of the today's topic, to give everybody an opportunity to get on, Frank, you want to just share one mortgage update and then or one product that we may not know about? I was talking to somebody about I-10 programs. Do either of us do those?
We do everything.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
both do. So who wants to field the first question about like an I-10?
Yeah, the I-10 is for someone that doesn't have a social security number. So basically, it's for folks that just don't have social security numbers, can't prove their citizenship. So we do those. It's 20, I think it's 20% down. Yeah, 20% down. And yeah, it's just
And
they don't have a social
Frank is our affiliated partner as opposed to a marketing partner. He's our partner down in Florida, and he spent the past couple of days with our team leaders. Thanks for going out there, Frank.
Appreciate you inviting me.
And then I want to reintroduce Cornerstone first, and I see Renee, you're on, right?
Yes, I'm here.
So Renee's on, and the CEO of her company actually came out to visit us in Nashville. It was quite impressive. Maybe you can just give us a brief update on like what rates are doing. I think we might have a little bit of positive news, but maybe that elapsed the past day.
Excuse me, I'm still coming alive from 4 days of fun with y'all. And yes, the market is improving, thankfully. Rates have moved back down into the low sevens, so that's given some relief in mortgage payments, obviously. In addition to what Frank said, we have about 4 in-house ITIN programs, and I believe we even have some that can go up to 90% loan to value with 10% down. We do a lot of that out of the box stuff as well internally. But hopefully, now that the holiday is here and we're coming into an election year, I'm hopeful that based on the history of rates, that rates will continue to maintain at this level and possibly slide down even a little more. Although you, excuse me, when you listen to all the commentary out there, you have half the economists talking doom and gloom and rates going up into the 8s and 9s. And then you have another group of people, talking about the Fed loosening and easing. And so it's I'm sure going to be a wild ride, as it's been the last 24 months, to be honest. But today, now that I'm back at my desk, I can dive in and start to look at all the unique products that Cornerstone offers. And hopefully each week, give all of you a little taste of some of the out-of-the-box stuff that we do that can help you grow your business.
Yeah, just a quick note. Also, the conforming loan limits were raised from 726,000 to 766,550. So the clients that we have that were now they were approved up to 726 based on the conforming rates. Rates are, the rates are set. The loan limits are set by Fannie Mae, Freddie. So what happens now is anybody going up to 766,550 will now qualify for that conforming rate. So it just opened up a little bit more of a playing field for some of our buyers that didn't want to get into either that jumbo rate or that high conforming rate. It opened it up a little bit for some of the folks. It went up about 40,000. So that was just announced. So that's on a 1 unit. 2 units are at 981,500. 3 units are at 1,186,000, and then 4 units are at 1,474,000. So these numbers are starting to go up, which is giving us a lot of room now for these great rates for people that are looking to borrow a little bit more. So just wanted to share that.
I'm sorry, did somebody say anything before I kind of move on? Oh, one of the things I just want to talk about is we met with the #1 REMAX team in the entire world, not just the country. And it was a great meeting. there were just so many dynamics and variables going on there. One thing that I did take away from it is, being the number one team doesn't make it any easier. It probably makes it even a little bit harder. I don't know. I see David there with a little smile. David, would you agree with that? I mean, it's just way more complex than easy being number one.
So everybody loves Gary and Deborah, and they're like the mayors of Nashville, and everybody, they see what they've built, and it's remarkable. But they just keep investing in themselves. They keep building more products and systems that work for them, and it is very hard. They have an incredible leadership team. I think it sounds great, all the things that they do, but for most people to implement what they have, it's almost.
Your phone's breaking up, my man.
Did you hear me?
Your phone's breaking up.
Let me see if I need to get back in.
Yeah, Dave, maybe we'll have to come back to you. It's very bad. So I found, Ron, maybe you have great audio. I found that instead of going out there and saying that this was easy, that with all the changes, it's even more complex than running a team of 6 or just running your own business. And that's really what I want to take back, is maybe that there's no point in time when you're invincible and you don't have to worry about anything because the market's always changing. I did get to speak to one of their top team leaders, Jeff, afterwards, and he was even sharing with me some things that maybe weren't fully embraced by the team, but getting buyers earlier on in the process with the new buyer agency litigation maybe gives us the ability to hand them over to our lending partners and get them situated further in advance than we did in the past, because some of the lenders that we have on this call, it's frustrating because you can't change what happened 3 months ago. But especially at this time of the year when people are going to file their tax returns, if they're looking to buy a house, if they talk to Renee and her team or Frank and his team early on in the process, it makes it so much easier and less stressful. So that actually might be a real positive coming out of the, the litigation activities that are going on, is that, buyers are more aware of the relationship. We should be contracting with them earlier on in the process and being able to serve them a little bit better. In terms of what were some of the the key takeaways that I got from spending 2 days in Nashville around the Gary Ashton team. One of them was the bigger your business is, the more attention you need to pay to what's working and what's not working. And I think that same lesson can be taken back to us in our own model, whether we're an individual agent and we're paying for 2 products, or whether we're a team of 10 or 12 here and we're spending either thousands or in some cases tens of thousands monthly providing resources to our team. Everything needs to be standing on its own, and there's no place where we can invest significantly in loser or non-performing investments. Things that are relevant to the entire group. I noticed that even with the massive team that they had, they were still doing the one-on-one engagement. I don't know, Ron, you remember Gary talking about doing the pop buys?
Yes, yeah.
They went out and they bought, like, I don't know if it was tens of thousands of pies, and they had those delivered because they wanted to have that individual relationship, even though it's $1 billion producing team. He talked about simple things like getting your Google reviews for individual agents and stacking them through offices so that the public can see that we are the brand that they can trust. He talked about a capacity of like what puts people on overload. So this is probably more relevant to people buying leads than even team leaders, or maybe it's equally as important. Gary's partner, Deborah, said that, if you give somebody more than 10 viable opportunities per month, 13 max, because each month it builds, that snowball effect will actually, run them over and they'll become less productive, not more. So like doubling your budget beyond where you can handle actually produces less at a greater expense. So I'm going to repeat that. So if Ron, if you were trying to handle 10 new leads a month, that's 2.5 a week, you probably do a really good job. If somebody came to you and said, hey, let's partner up, let's get you double that, you might become overwhelmed and actually yield less total closings with more leads.
That's why they had staff. They had a staff for everything.
Right.
And what was impressive too is that, well, it's not so much impressive. It's really likely that when you're in this kind of business, you have to put money back into your business or have an account so you can do the things that they did to expand. I mean, he started out small. Remember, he was saying how he was on a 60-40 split, then he went to 50-50. He said, screw this. I'm going to open my own company. And then when he did, everything blossomed, whether he had backing or whatever, but he put money back in his business and it kept growing and growing and growing. And, we tend to get our commission checks and put them in the bank and then spend the money for whatever. We got to put a percentage of that away to keep your business flowing.
And I'm just going to go through, Ron, on this kind of line item by line item by line item. But he said that even if you're individual, do a monthly productivity review. Okay, if you're a team leader, do it for your team members. If you're a solo agent, look at what you accomplished that month. Today is December 1st. Look at what you did in November. See if you can recall exactly what you did in October and September and see how that's trending. Okay, and compare it, because having consciousness of what's going on does influence how you behave and what things you prioritize. I wish I had $1 every time somebody said, I wish I would have known that my pipeline was this thin. Now I'm kind of jammed up because they weren't looking forward. They were just looking at what's closing, so they have 3 closings on December 18th and 22nd, and then they have nothing in the pipeline. That's a recipe for absolute panic. And that's probably not a great way to grow the business. So monthly reviews, as a team leader, he'd mentioned what gets measured improves. They use an additional program called Follow Up Boss, which actually tracks every phone call and every text message that they do. And they acknowledge and reward the people who have the most activities, the top 10 out of 190, for making outbound calls and sending text messages. They have required training as their group. And I think that, those of us that are on these calls here don't need a required training because we're investing in ourselves, but maybe that's a reinforcement. This is a really good one. Who has a resume as an agent that you can present to a client?
I do.
Okay. Now, I would bet you it's the minority, if not the vast minority. And you're like, why do I need a resume? But maybe you want to have that resume. And this way you can share with them, hey, I have 11 years of experience. I help, 92 families, whatever that is, have that resume so that it supports, who you are.
You know what, Rob? I think a lot of agents, I'm sorry, I just chimed in, and this is like, I have a passion about this. A lot of agents don't realize their past life before they were an agent, they can somehow, some way relate it to real estate and show off about your past, what you did.
Yeah. And sometimes, Ned, I can't tell you how many times, if your past career intersects with, the buyer or the seller, then they have another way of relating to you, right?
Have car.
Right.
Yeah. So, maybe, have a resume so that you can share with your clients, exactly who you are. At the Ashton team, they have the head of the departments meet on Fridays at 2:30 to review all the metrics for the week. And that basically forces them to come up with all their numbers and share them to see, hey, how did we do this week? Okay. Maybe that's something you want to embrace. Maybe you're a Monday morning person that wants to review what happened last week and then replan for what are we going to do different this upcoming week. Measures, not closings, not scheduled closings, but one of the big metrics that they looked at were how many contracts did we put together this week and how many contracts did we write? So written contracts that weren't accepted and contracts that, that were consummated during that particular week. They were talking about, doing 30 a week and sometimes 40 to 50 is where they needed to be. And they literally measure that every week. So they can predict what's going to be happening 3 to 10 weeks out in the future or 3 to 8 weeks out in the future. Pretty cool.
He also mentioned using KV Core as a CRM for drip campaigns. And he gave us Whitley.com, which is a lead generation company.
I don't know if anybody took better notes on the Whitley, but I have to do some research on that. That he put up 6 or 7 tools that that I think are worthy of looking into. And I will tell you for certain that if I can embrace and roll out 1, maybe 2 of them effectively, I'd be really satisfied, because if I try to roll out 4, I'm going to do none of them well. One other thing that I saw that he did run is he had specialists on his team do trainings. So the people,
say that again, I'm sorry.
like he had specialists on the team do training, like the individual Jeff just got off a training on land, because they apparently have a lot of land sales out there. And he's also somewhat of an expert on new construction. So he was actually taking his skills, like his unique skills, and sharing them with the entire team. Now, with a brokerage, I'm more of a supportive role than a benevolent dictator like Gary can be, because he's like, everybody has to go and take this land class. I want to make it available. I want to share with you what others receive from doing these activities and give you the opportunity to participate or not. One of the other things that I think is, a benefit is finding ways to get your clients, your prospective clients together. They do things like sponsor professional teams. And they invite their clients, their past clients, to come see them at the Predators game or at these activities that they do as an organization. That's another thing that I think is doable. Some of our agents and team leaders do events where they have, I was at one team leaders event where they had 500 of their team members, clients, and their past clients to a particular event. They had 3 shuttle buses taking people to the event. It was just an amazing activity. So those are things that you might want to consider doing at the scale that's appropriate for you. Whether it's doing a barbecue at the park and spending $1,000 once a year. I know we had an agent that did a Mardi Gras themed event where all the past clients came over, and he would always invite me, get it catered by the best local restaurant that everybody knew, so they'd like to go there. And there's nothing better to hit that reticular activator nerve in your head than your past clients talking about what a great experience they had. Okay. And this also maybe changes the experience that you give and makes you say, instead of just getting them to the closing table and getting, hey, Ron did a good job, converting them into raving fans that want to go and tell everybody else about what a great job you did. Because if you've ever dropped the ball, people will be, you don't have to tell them. They'll go tell everybody what a lousy job somebody did if you drop the ball. But you really have to deliver white glove, top-notch service for them to go out of their way and tell everybody they know about what a great job REMAX Select did for them, and that they should be working with so-and-so agent or so-and-so team at REMAX Select.
I was thinking about maybe sponsoring their housewarming party.
That would be fantastic.
But I don't want to just give them like $500-600 and say, here, this is for your housewarming party, and then they just never have it. I have to figure out how to make them have it.
You can put together an event, bring in a couple local vendors. You can cater it and kind of help host it with them. Gary, one of the things that I mentioned, one of the things that I noticed, I was invited to a breakfast before the event with Deborah and a couple other agents. And what they did, which was very nice, was Gary and Deborah recognize each week or month of the birthdays of their agents. And, obviously they live and play in a different world at that level. But these agents are so motivated and excited because they get an opportunity to see them in person, alone, without a big group, and talk about what's going on in their lives. And I noticed how important it was for these agents. They talked about new designations, some business, what they're working on, what's important to them, and non-real estate stuff. And it reminded me how important it is to take time away from it. It's like they spend a lot more time with their agents than I think most people would even think to do. And it's really why everybody that knows them loves them so much. I mean, everybody thinks of Gary like the mayor of Nashville. And as the city grows, people just ask him, hey, where should I go for this? Who should I go for that? And at that level, it's really powerful.
So this is probably gonna be really, really poor quality, but I'm gonna share this with you because I thought this was pretty cool. Let me just find it here. Here's our Uber driver. Let me get the audio on.
There's a lot of commercials here.
All right.
Hey, sir, did you ever hear of Gary Ashton? Yes, runs a lot of commercials here. And what's his tagline? Don't sell without the intel. All right, thank you, brother. What's your name? This is the Uber driver. Yes, you are known.
So Rob, every Uber driver, whenever I'm in Nashville, I ask the same question, and they all know Deborah and they all knew Gary. And on one night I went out with Lynn to Broadway, and we asked the same question, and the guy goes, "Oh, I'm Deborah Beagle's personal driver 90% of the time." It's crazy what they have there.
Okay, and another fact for everybody here. Okay, they do 110 hours of onboard training for new agents coming on the team. 110 hours. Okay, so to be on the team, you have to be committed to. That's more than it takes to get a license, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's in-person training. He suggested that you set yourself up as a lead in whatever you're doing. So your CRM, said use the CRM. I have so many notes here. Oh, he has the Facebook weekly update. Okay. What he has his team do, and maybe David, you want to describe that if you're more familiar with it?
Yeah, Facebook FBFU. Yeah. So
Excuse me?
basically on a FBFU.
I'm kidding, Dave. I'm like, you said F you to me.
So basically, they are in a private Facebook group, very simple, obviously, to set up. We're obviously in multiple private Facebook groups within RSG. And every week, people post their listings, and it's basically like an internal MLS for the team, the greater team, to see what else is going on within the business. And a lot of deals with Gary get done on both sides because they have basically so much inventory between 200. They float between about 170 to 200 agents constantly as people come and go. But with that many agents that close and training and staying in touch and spending time together, every week, all the agents will post to that group their latest listings, do a walking tour. And so all the agents will kind of really see it on a whole different, more intimate level than just on the MLS, and kind of be like, well, I was just talking to somebody and that's exactly what they're looking for. Let me call my teammate. Let me set up the showing. And it's so much easier to get deals done that way. So,
Dave, let me interrupt just because I have a short term, like I'll forget if I don't say it right away. So he goes, hey, it's Gary Ashton here at 123 Main Street. He'll have it on himself. Then he'll turn the camera and he says, you have to flip the lens this way so you get a better view. And he'll walk through the property. And that will be like the pipeline in the way of us sharing our internal coming soon so that we can provide better value to our fellow agents and their clients. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No. And it's, it seems so simple, but if you really if everybody paid attention, all the things that they implement, it's very simple things done at a certain scale, consistently updated, consistently tracked. Nothing is so, he is obsessed with tech. He's always at the front edge of tech. Obviously, everything he started with the leads and the Nashville.com, but it's just accountability at a very high level. And he just keeps pouring. Ron and I talked about this, keeps pouring and pouring money back into the business. And I think knowing him on a deeper personal level, I think he just takes the biggest risks. And most people in this business at any level aren't willing to invest in themselves or their team or their brokerage the way he does. And that's why he doesn't just take his agents to the Predators. He is the real estate partner of the Nashville Predators, of the Titans. He has buses and tons of cars wrapped before every game. People are playing cornhole and getting free drinks and winning prizes at every single game. They speak sometimes at halftime, like certain things. It's wild, but that's what he does. He interacts with the city, and he gets involved. He has 90 billboards around the greater Nashville area. So people can't not know him, and that's powerful for the whole team. That's why the guy Jeff and everybody talks about how they're not afraid to use his name or to say that they're on the Ashton team, because it's such a powerful thing. It's for everybody. Everybody actually benefits from it because he's such a likable person if you get to know him, that it's just so helpful. So I almost, before I moved to the West Coast of Florida, guys, I almost moved to Nashville to work closely with Deborah and Gary a couple years ago. I like him and his system so much. What I see though is the way that he brings people on, and you just mentioned how long it takes to actually qualify to be an agent on the team. It works so well that's why these team, like these little squad leaders and these smaller teams within his team, there's such a organized way of doing this that everybody just believes, like, well, if this guy's done it, he's been here for 3 years, it's going to work for me. And that's why they all succeed. They don't just take a lead and fumble, they close these deals. And that's why they have hundreds of closings a month. And if you heard, 98 wasn't a lot this month, we're used to 120. I mean, that's why, because everybody holds everybody else accountable down the line. It's not Deborah and Gary. They've set it up for everybody to help each other, downline. And that's really cool.
I had one other thought on that. What was my, on the Facebook update, and I'm not a Facebook expert, but when he has them write their weekly performance in the third party, where we would say, David Haller wrote 2 offers and put 1 contract together and had 2 families move into a house this week. I'm really proud to have David on the REMAX Select team. Now, the agents or the team members are writing that weekly update, and where were they posting it so that Gary gave it like the endorsement?
So what he does, because his endorsement means so much to him,
Means so much to the team members and to the public.
Yeah, so because everybody recognizes this name, Ashton, Gary Ashton, everywhere, it's like these agents and the community, just if they get a chance, he's like a celebrity to all these people. So it's a very different thing. So he tags and he'll share, and then everybody that follows him will see it, and then they start following him, and that's why one of the big benefits.
But so
He attracts a lot of agents from different companies. That's why a lot of agents go to him.
And people that leave come back.
Solid.
So where, like, how does that, like, what was the process of that getting posted? Anybody, like, do they post it on their page and Gary likes it? And if they do on their page, like, how are they writing it in the third party?
They're writing it to the third party, and I believe they're sending it to their marketing department. Marketing department then funnels it to their Gary Ashton's page and the brokerage page.
So then Gary, I think Gary also posted that on their wall or something like that. So that then
Correct.
they could like there was, what was the process for that? Does anybody know particular? 'Cause I didn't-
So remember too, Rob, they have their own internal. So they posted in their internal Facebook page.
Yeah, but
ISA.
this one was the public facing one, Foz. This one was not in the private page.
Right, so their marketing department, they submit, there's a form that they submit on a weekly basis. When they highlight the person, the agent talks about themselves and what they did as a third party, that gets submitted to their marketing department, then the marketing department funnels it out.
Gotcha. So and you know, our equivalent to that could be your broker or your office manager could post those out on your behalf, and you know, we could say, hey, you know, Felicia just put 2 contracts together, closed 1 deal, and wrote 4 offers this month. And you know, he was very, and I really appreciate it. He's like, look, don't put anything out there that's not true. You don't have to say like you closed, you wrote 3 offers. You wrote 3 offers. And he said the public doesn't really distinguish between writing offers or writing contracts and getting contracts accepted. I wrote 3 contracts and, you know, consummated 2 contracts came out of attorney review, or 2 were finalized, whatever. He's like, if you just share those events, you know, it was out on 2 appraisals and 1 home inspection. You know, people just relate to that as more and more business, and it gives you more and more credibility, in my opinion.
It's
Absolutely. Yeah, you
perception.
remember that it doesn't matter too if there's a cancel, because it's going to wash itself. So don't post
Yes.
that there was a cancel. It just washes itself. And then to make sure that all of everyone on your team is following the pages, because if you can't tag anyone if you're not following the pages. That's
It's
the most
perception.
important.
It's perception, guys. Whenever I'm doing something, if I have the time and the ability to share what I'm up to in a positive light, if I'm on a showing and I can take a photo with the sunset, I'll even tag Fazia, or Fazia will share it or something, because I know everybody else is going to see it. And when you share those activities, no matter what it is, it seems positive. It seems that you're out there, you're doing your thing. Not every day we're going to have a closing or write an offer, but the public doesn't understand what it is that we do every day. So you never know what that's going to attract. And that's when you get another agent, another buyer, another seller call you and say, oh, I see you were just in this area. I didn't know you do that area. Boom. There's an opportunity.
Couple other things is when, you know, Gary started out being a tech guy, you know, he truly realized, because of going through the tech space, the value of the personal conversation. And what did he say? Every listing he had, he would get 3 additional sales from meeting people at open houses.
Open houses, typically 3 to 5.
So open houses, we all know, aren't to sell the house. Those are to occasionally sell the house, but you can build additional relationships. Okay. So Gary's he's a tech head, and he, you know, from seeing how difficult it was to communicate to people purely through electronic means or phone calls, recognize the value of that face-to-face interaction. He talked about his first big transaction cost him how much, David?
1 penny.
All right.
Pay-per-click.
So yeah, he was early on in the pay-per-click game. So he was getting a lot of leads. You know, some of them were not great, but he called up this one person, and it was Andy Pudsner, who was the CEO of Carl's Jr. and move the entire company from California to Nashville, from picking up the phone, calling, and having a conversation on a lead that cost a penny. So
he has these stories every day. It does a deal with the creditor, and then the whole team wants to work with him. It's wild.
So
Rob, I love the brokers open and then jumping in another agent's car so that he doesn't have to drive. And then that's how he has communication with other agents.
yeah, definitely a different, everybody's got their story, but he met his business partner going to like the Caravan when his car was in the shop. He just went to the first house and he figured, hey, everybody goes from house to house. I'll just bum a ride from people. And that's how he met his business partner. A lot of those interesting stories that you kind of just change the whole trajectory of your business and your life, quite frankly.
But if you think about that, Rob, in Florida, we do Tuesday brokers open. Lynn and the team, they go to a bunch of brokers open on Tuesday. And if you see talent at those brokers open, why wouldn't you do that and try to build a relationship with them in the car? You're there on the Tuesdays.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to, we have 22 minutes left. I want to see if there's any of those who weren't there who could ask us. I see there's a handful of us that got up early for this call after coming in late last night. Have any questions of like a big team or anything at all that you want to, put out there? We'll do our best to answer as a group, or I'll give it my best shot.
Morning, Rob. I posted on the chat an excellent service, a free service, but actually costs you $2.59. That writes real estate resumes. You can add your photo on. It's really nice. We did one. Lisa did one a while back, and she has a really nice one. So
I didn't know you were on the call, Colleen. I didn't know you were on the call, and I was going to say, Colleen makes the agents do a resume.
Yes, she does.
Fantastic. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Because there was a lot for us to process.
Rob, I got a question.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was wondering, he's got the latest technology. How is he handling the new AI that's coming online with Open Chat GPT?
You can do a resume on Chat GPT.
No, I'm talking about Gary Ashton. Is he using Chat GPT?
Yeah,
He didn't mention too much about AI, did he?
They didn't really drop and talk much about AI, but I know they use it for their websites when they're updating, and they use it for different things within. They have a number of websites that they're found and landing pages, and they definitely use AI in their business. But we didn't get into details.
And one of the things that he talked about was milestones.ai. Are you familiar with that, or do you have any opinion on it, or is it too early to tell?
I don't know anything about Milestones AI.
I was kind of directing that towards David since he was there. Do you have any idea, David, or no?
I know it turns leads and transactions into more clients and forever clients, and I looked into it briefly, but I haven't used it yet. I had heard about it before our meeting with him, but I have never gotten into it. There's so many new AI sites to go through and visit. That's one that he likes. I'm constantly looking into them, but we haven't started using any of these. ChatGPT we've been using for a long time when it comes to remarks on listings or updating a landing page, but that one, no, I haven't done it.
And I think the concept there, and I don't know if this is exactly the AI question that you're looking to have answered, but he said that this focuses on trying to keep them closer to you after the transaction without you having to be as involved, because how many times do you get a call, hey, a pipe broke, or I need this type of repair person, right? And it was like I aggregated everything together to try to make it automated and simple, give them, basically the Ashton Angie's list, right? Of here are all the, validated referral partners that we're comfortable with, right? Because I think that's a tremendous value proposition that, sometimes, we're on the group chat or you put it on the closed Facebook page, who knows a good, electrician in, Essex County. And that's a value add to keep them top of mind and referring you.
He has an ecosystem. So like when somebody asks us who to use for whatever, they always ask him. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to have anything to do with the real estate transaction or their home or condo. You need anything, you call him. He's like the plug. And that's when you could become the plug in your city or your town, that's going to start, changing your business.
Yeah, fantastic. So he is basically, he's a tremendous data hound, looking at all the data points coming in, so they can better serve his audience. He also at his stage is getting he's getting the questions from the authorities about, hey, where's the real estate market going? He's the guy that sends his team members, Deborah or himself, to be on TV to answer those questions, which is, you want to become the authority. We're all not going to be on, CNBC or a local news channel, but in the modern media, we don't need to be there. We just need to be where our clients are and be known as that reliable source that, people can relate to and get quality data. Here's another thing that he talked about, which I don't know, I think was pretty enlightening. And he spends, I'm going to say, if you count the money he sends to Zillow on the Flex, he's spending more than 10 million on advertising and promotion. David, would you agree?
I know it's probably very hard it was hard for me to hear it at first, but yeah, because the 90 billboards, the Zillow, the Realtor, the Predators, the Titans, easily he spends an insane amount, but it comes back.
Okay, but what I want to, and I'm not saying that to intimidate anybody. What I'm saying to you is he looks at the service of providing a bona fide lead as a 50% value proposition. In other words, in the game of selling a real estate transaction, right? He believes that he needs to keep his spending, around the 50% range. And that's the cost to generate abundant qualified leads on a sustainable level. So for example, and a lot of people might say that's ridiculous. And I want to get that reaction from you, because we all have the ability to generate our own leads, and maybe we can recognize more value in the leads that we do generate. So, if you were to look at a commission dollar coming in, let's just say it's, a $10,000 commission, he's budgeting $5,000 for the piece, the value proposition that he does, which is, generate the lead. And then when you have a lead that's generated by the team, he has a contract to close department, so that the agent or the team member's role of, following up with those qualified leads and getting them under contract is half of the transaction. The other half is the lead generation and the contract to close. To me, that was pretty insightful, because he's doing it at a really high level, and looking behind the curtain, it's a really, really thin margin. And there are sometimes, probably more times than you'd want to admit, that that margin is negative, right, Dave?
Yeah, but over time the business grows, and it makes sense when you're scaling. So the night before you guys got in, I had dinner and drinks with one of his agents, and I always like to deal with the people at the top, no matter what company I've been with or what development I've been with. And obviously that's why I work so closely with you and Fazia. But I also like to meet the people that are starting out or building teams within a team, like this with this girl we met, Ashley Warren. I notice she gets a lot of the referrals like I do in Sarasota and the West Coast. She gets a lot of them up there. And even though she's not Gary, people start really are sending her a lot of the business there in Nashville. And she told me that these systems are just they're very, very different. And a lot of the people that he says that have left the team keep coming back to him because they realize that these leads are the most leads in that whole market. He has that control of because he has such a spend with Zillow and Realtor.com. No other brokerage can have those kind of partnerships because he owns those partnerships. So they literally come back because they're getting that much business. And of course, they're worth that price and they close them. So, you know, that's it just there's a lot of things that just are happening where that's just been one of the best markets as well. And he knew that it was the right time to just keep doubling down and keep reinvesting all that money into those leads in that city.
His net income per zip code, David, is where he excels. The net income per zip code. So it divide and conquered per zip code, which was really intelligently smart, along with the digital media.
Rob Durso, did you have a comment? Or were you just?
No, I was just gonna mention a couple of things that that other folks had already mentioned, but I just think the other thing that and I might have missed it because I came on late. The systems, they have those systems in place to keep everybody on track, and they're following up on them to make sure that they're working on a regular basis. So they've created a culture where checking to see what you're doing isn't negative. You know, it's what did he say, Rob? You can't fix it if it's not documented, something like that. Trying to think. It was just a clever, but you know.
I mean, basically you need to inspect what you expect, and then you can find opportunities to fix things before it's too late. One of the things for many of us that are individual successful agents that aren't in the team space right now is how do you go about and leverage yourself, whether you want to have an official team or you want to have an unofficial team where when you go on vacation for 2 weeks, somebody can cover for you. You don't have to panic, or your clients don't have to suffer because you've mapped out the process. Many team leaders that I've had the opportunity and pleasure to mentor have always felt that I have to do certain aspects because that's what my clients are expecting. Like I have to go to the home inspection, I have to go to the photo shoot, I have to meet the appraiser in case they're going to come in with a low appraisal, right? But what they learned is that they can set different expectations and put people in places that can substitute for those roles. And, I asked Gary this question. I'm like, Gary, how do you hand people off that have worked with you for years and want to work with Gary? And then you're going to give them to, Ashley, or you're going to give them to Katie, or you give them to Jeff, right? And he said, well, in the worst case, I'll go on the first showing, and when they ask questions, I'll be like, you know what? Katie knows far more about this than me. Katie, what's the answer? The next thing you know, he says, I disappear. And he said it absolutely works, but I'm going to say maybe it works at an extremely high level because you've made that connection and handed it off. And a lot of times, the things that we have done that have made us successful, we believe are necessary and required. And there's I may be butchering this, but in the accounting world, a lot of the ways that businesses run their budgets is they take this year's budget and they say everybody gets a 3% increase next year, right? And I would suggest that we do zero-based budgeting where everybody has to demonstrate each year why they should keep the budget that they have or grow their budget. Okay. And in context to what I'm talking about is if you go to photo shoots and home inspections and appraisals because that's what you believe your clients want, maybe you need to just rethink that. Okay. One of the team leaders said, look, I agree, it's kind of ridiculous. And he went to his photographer, and he or she went to their photographer, said, hey, here's how I would like it done. Did it a second time and said, now I'm going to send my assistant there. As long as you continue to do the photo shoots the way that we're doing them here, you'll be my photographer. If you deviate and you give me bad work, I'll find somebody else in the most politest and endearing way. And that individual no longer goes on photo shoots and can rededicate that time to developing their team members, to growing their business, to making prospecting calls, or quite frankly, having more time to live their life. Okay, so those are some of the things that, I want to put out there, whether you're a team leader, a team member, or an individual who is thinking about a team, or, you're that individual that would never have a team, but maybe you can embrace some of the concepts to get back some of your time. Okay. So
He also talked about ISAs too, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he has ISAs, and he moved a lot of them to US based, spends a lot, he spends a lot of money. And I think I think sometimes his team members, without it being demonstrated, say, oh my God, why am I paying 50% to get these leads? But if you were to look behind the curtain, you would see all the expenses that are involved in delivering that product. Right. And
not just the lead. It's not just the lead. It's like you said, it's so many departments that are helping to manage all the processes. And it's not just a program or two, it's all these actual people. And that's when you see how many offices and how many people are involved in one transaction, which takes these agents away from spending so much time on the whole transaction so that they can focus on multiple clients. And that's why I've noticed a lot of his agents that have so much production, because they're able to be with so many different clients in a day, where some agents are happy to be with one client in a day. Sometimes I see his agents with 4 or 5 different clients in a day, and they're closing these deals.
So David, here's an example from somebody that one of our team leaders that was at the conference. He said to me, I struggle with hiring team members because I can get them to be successful, and then many times they'll leave me. And he literally gave me this example. He hired a young man that was struggling. He was living on a friend's couch, and he only could afford a moped. Within 11 months, he made $90,000. He bought a really nice car, rented an apartment, and he started getting all these recruiting calls. And they're saying, do you know how much you're paying your team leader? He's taking advantage of you, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I need a better deal. He's like, I want a 90-10 split. And our team leader said, I can't afford to do that for you because I'm providing you with the leads. The individual left the team, and then in the next 12 months, did 4 transactions, gave up his apartment, and he kept his car. And it's just kind of sad. And I really feel like that was avoidable if we could find a way to communicate what's really happening, right? Because
what's happening, because I've had teams from 3 people to 21 people on the Haller group over the years. What's happening is that the team leader doesn't spend enough quality time with that person. If that person had a personal relationship outside and they did enough one-on-one time with that person, and if there was a culture that was established, that person would never be looking for just, oh, I need 90%, and that's what's going to take me away, because 90% of what? Like you said, they ended up doing 4 more deals.
So Dave, sometimes we assume, like, this individual assumed that, hey, I changed this person's life. They're like making this tremendous progress, right? And I think there was a personal level of insult. Maybe it wasn't reinforcing the value, right? But I would say probably 90% certainty that if you were to document like what you were doing along the way, so that when they got that call, they would realize that, I am not the rainmaker here. I am being mentored into an ability to, have this living, right? But it's tempting. Like, all of a sudden you find success quickly. somebody calls you and says, great, you're doing fantastic. You know, you're paying your broker too much, or you're paying your team leader too much. And, you know, then they get distracted. And I guess, you know, acknowledging, praising, reinforcing the value is a really important piece as you're growing your team.
If you do the things that he does, a lot of the things I've done over the years, different companies, and you spend that time with these people, the praise comes out organically. You can get somebody to leave a job selling cars, furniture, they come work with you. If you spend time bringing them up and you get to really know each other and you see things that you can give them and value, they're not going to just leave. They leave because it's just it's so transactional in the team atmosphere, right? So if you actually build that rapport, you truly make them feel like you care, because you do, and you show that empathy, the compassion, the understanding that they're leaving something that feels like, you know, all these times, every company I hear, it's just because it's too transactional and less connection. If you build that connection, people are not going to leave you. That's what I talk about with him all the time. He's not just a friend, he's a mentor. So I have a different insight when it comes to the way that the team works. And he's all those agents, 200 people, they call him. He answers his phone. If he doesn't, he sends them a text message and says, I'm with the developer. I'll call you when I can. That accessibility at that level, that's why he has that culture.
So I don't know.
Rob,
And David, this is not, this was not, this individual really did spend a lot of time, taking somebody that had no experience, living on somebody's couch, didn't even have a car to take out clients, and got them up to $90,000 of income in 11 months. And sometimes we look at it and we say, wow, how could somebody be so ungrateful, stupid, whatever? But I think it goes both ways. In other words, people don't understand, what drives this business. And then when they get that call saying, hey, David, you're so great, you should come here, you can make more money. They go back to the team leader and they say, hey, you know how much money I made you, was the phrase that they used. And it was insulting, and the whole thing fell apart. Then that can lead us to saying, building relationships and teams aren't worth it, because this could happen. And I'm putting it out there because it's a learning experience. It's nothing different than setting the expectation when you list somebody's house for sale. 6% is too much, 5% is too much, but it's only too much when there's no value demonstrated, right? And maybe if you can give value, but you can't sell it on the front end, you won't get what you're worth, correct? I mean,
Absolutely.
there are some agents that deliver phenomenal service, but don't do a great job at documenting their value, and they get underpaid. So,
well, that's the choice of the agent. This year, I walked away from a number of transactions that I could have listed, and I had no interest in these deals, because the moment the seller decides to act cheap and stingy and want my services for less than I deserve, it's not the relationship I want.
right.
And I'd rather focus on different things.
And David, I'm going to just, I care about you and your business, and I'm just going to say that there are some that are ones that we win when we walk away. And there are some that are predisposed to be price conscious, that we can win those over, and we can leave them with a smile and get paid fair value for what we do. And sometimes, just like that team leader said, I'm insulted that you want a 90-10 split. I'm delivering so much value. If somebody says, can you do the list side for 1%, right? That may be somebody who's a jerk, or maybe somebody who's predisposed to be cheap, or maybe somebody that's uneducated, uninformed. Because I would bet that if that individual that wound up getting an apartment and a car and made 90 grand in 11 months could look back in time without emotion, they would have said, I made the worst decision in my life. And there are some people, when they lose you for being their listing agent, are making a fatal decision for getting the true value out of their house. And part of that, maybe we need a different method to deal with different personalities, David, and say, you don't understand my value. You're a loser. I'm walking out the door.
I don't take it personal anymore. It's there's a lot of people in this business with 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or a lot of people that have been doing it for a long time that just don't also need the income to a certain degree. So they'll do a deal for 4%, 5%, and that's just not a client I want to work with. I think there's enough business out there.
Right, but I'm challenging, I'm pressing you on this one, David, because sometimes that person that appears to be that client may not be that client. Okay, you just need a different communication method to get them over the hump, over the hurdle, over their own mindset. Because I have agents here that work in a market that's predominantly a 4% market, and they're coming out with 5.5% and 6% listings. Okay, and the way that they're doing that is by just changing the way that they address the objection. Come in. So and I'm not trying to be argumentative with you. I just wanted to say
No. I understand where you're going with this. I'm just trying to explain that unfortunately these brokerages allow mailers and things to go out with 4%, and a lot of homeowners, they don't understand the industry and our standards. And I've been doing this since 2005, and I really think it's up to us to all just keep it at 6, and up to us to really educate everybody. And I'm just saying, sometimes, you know, I believe in mirroring and reflecting and understanding who we're in front of, and changing our tune and our mindset to what we need to accomplish in that moment. However, sometimes the client is just not going to, there's a spouse that's just stuck on, we have to pay 4% and that's it.
Right.
I've gotten people to come up to 6% that were at 5.
But I mean, so first of all, matching your value proposition versus a standard is something that I'm very conscious about, David. Like your value proposition could be you deliver 6 and 7% service, but there really is no standard, because people can want 1%, 4%. And I will just tell you, and you may not believe this, but I've gone out with agents where people have said, you know what, I got this mailer, they sold my neighbor's house. Don't even bother coming out unless you can do a commission for 3.9%. And we walked out of there, we walked out with a 5% listing. Okay. And it's just a matter of educating people. And it's not really, there's no I believe there is no standard. If there was a standard, we'd all be getting a standard commission. It's a very, very competitive market, and you need to charge what your value is. Like, there's no standard price for a good attorney. There's no standard price for a good architect. Okay, we all have our value proposition, and you say, hey, I want you to deliver $550 an hour legal services for $300. They're going to say, hey, thank you, but no thank you. I know we're kind of overtime here. I really care tremendously about the subject. All right, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here.
Yeah, well, this, like I said, the company has a lot of support for our agents. It's terrific, and kudos to the group here, because without you, Rob, and Fozzie and Nancy and Colleen, myself, and all the other staff, it's tremendous.
Well, I love working with all of you. I appreciate you chiming in here on Fridays, and I hope I make your careers and lives just a tiny bit better. Thank you so much, everybody.
Tomorrow, Rob.
Well said, Ron.
You got it.
100%. Thank you so much.
I'll be back in
Nashville.
I'll be back in Florida tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Tomorrow, guys.
Bye, Rob.